Welcome to ATP Customs. Well, today is part one of my 1969 Chevy Shortbox C10 build that I've been waiting to do for a very long time. So what we're going to do today is I'm just going to go over the plan on what we're doing and give you the history of this truck first, and then discuss what I want to do to it and go from there. And then tomorrow's video will be the Black Mustang. So, this truck was a truck that my dad worked on for a customer when I was about 16, maybe 17 years old. I'm 47 this year. That's how long my dad's been servicing this particular truck. It belonged to, I'm going to say, a family of brothers and sisters, and they actually used this as a work truck. This was an actual true farm truck. This thing hauled supplies. It spent its whole life on the road, changing motors repeatedly. It's had multiple motors in it. It's got a 327 4-speed in it now. I was told it had a 427 in it at some point. When I got to drive it, my dad was working on it and left it in the driveway, and I took it down the road, and I don't know what motor was in it then, but it sounded unbelievable, and it had so much power that I got fourth gear rubber in it. Because of course, that's what you do when you're young, right? So, I had taken it for a rip, and ever since then, I loved this truck. I loved the color of it. I loved the shape and the body style of it. That was it for me. This was one of my favorites since then. I have been trying to get this truck out of that family forever. I did not want another short box. I love this one. So, quite a few years ago, I'm going to take a wild guess, about somewhere between 6 or 8 years ago, I pulled into the gentleman's driveway, and it had been sitting there in the weeds. I'll just pop a picture up what it looked like right now. And that's where it landed. It sat there in the field, growing weeds around it. And he was in his garden, and I said, "Are you ready to sell me that truck yet?" And I caught him on the right day, and he said, "You know what? Yes, I am." I do not think the family was very happy that it got sold, but when I'm done this build, I think they'll be happy. What is the plan? Well, we got to take this whole thing apart and check everything. It's got a different frame under it because it had it slid off the road, hit a fence post. The cab is still caved in on the passenger side from that, and they put a different frame under it at some point. I don't know the history of that, exactly what went down there. So we want to pull the cab off, which is rotten anyway. We're going to pull the 327 out and the 4-speed and check the frame, see where we're at. I can't believe it's in my shop. A few years ago, Mr. White's dad, Carmen, was a very good friend of mine. He was the one who was doing everything around here. Carmen was a bulldog. He would literally push you out of the way to do a job that you were working on. Carmen was just that pushy. He loved building everything we built. So Carmen was in here for about 2.5 years. And before we lost Carmen, which we will get into in the next video, that's got to do with the Black Mustang. But before we lost Carmen, Carmen managed to get this apart for me. I had to work a part-time job during the week so that we could keep this shop going when times were tough. When you start a business with $0, you got to work hard. So I worked a part-time job at a garden store, and during the week, Carmen would give me a hand and try and keep things rolling. So he got this truck apart. We got the fenders off, got the hood off. The whole box is unbolted. Really, all we have to do is unbolt the 4 bolts on the cab, disconnect the steering. The brakes are already disconnected. A little bit of wiring, and that cab is off. I have the other cab on the other truck sitting out at my dad's, which we're going to use, and it also has a good fender and a good passenger door. They're original. So I'm not sure what's in the back of this truck right now, all the parts from it being taken off, but I don't know what the driver's door is like. I have two good hoods actually, and I'm not sure what the rad support's like, but I do have two of them, so that's good news. And the 4-speed, supposedly was a rock crusher, but I don't believe it is. We're going to pull that out, and that actually gives me a 4-speed to use in my Acadian if I wanted to. For now, if I wanted to make my Acadian run, I do have the 383 stroker in there, and that 4-speed would fit perfectly because my Acadian is set up for a 4-speed with the clutch pedals. I have a cross member for a turbo 350 in there right now, but not a big deal. So we may donate the 4-speed to my Acadian so we can actually drive that this summer, which would be really cool because I still have not acquired all the parts for the 2JZ swap. So I don't mind doing a tranny in it and going and having some fun until we get all that. The Acadian's been around long enough, it's not a panic. Now I could do two different builds on this truck. I can do the build that I'm capable of doing right now financially because I have a lot of the parts to get this done and can do very bare minimum part spending. And then I can do the build that I want to do when I sell that. So if I spend the rest of the week getting this ready to go to August Motor Luxury Cars and get it sold, then I can just do the high-end build that I would like to do, because the wheels, of course, I picked out are about $5,000 for the whole set. Yeah. Or I can do just a basic build and keep it a street truck. You would not get all the body and paint done that way, but that is the option right now. I do have to get all these tire swaps out of the way and get started on that anyway. So we're just evaluating. I do have a Turbo 400 in a motorhome that, from what I understand, they have much bigger planetary gears on it. But here is my dilemma. This is a Vortec 454, and I've been Googling it, and every time I Google it, all you end up finding is a big argument on the forums on who's right and who's wrong. It's a 97 L29 454. My question is, can I use the Turbo 400 behind it? Yes, they will bolt up, but that requires different flex plate, I believe. Torque converter, there are some differences there, and everybody always ends up in an argument on these forums, and all I want is the answer. So if anybody out there has the true answer, can I use a Turbo 400 behind this thing? If so, what do I got to use for the flex plate and the torque converter? The other option I have laying around is I have a 92 one-ton Chevy that has a 4L80 in it. Some guys say the earlier 4L80s were weaker. Some guys say they're not, but you do spend a little money to upgrade them. So I am in that weird little dilemma of figuring out what's going to fit between the transmissions. Yes, you can still bolt both transmissions up, 4L80 and Turbo 400, but there are some differences in between them. Ideally, it would be great if I could just use the Turbo 400 because that is a very easy transmission and reliable transmission to use for that thing. We are not requiring really ridiculous highway speeds. This is a street truck, a drag truck. We want to run it down the quarter mile and use it as a daily street driver. And so one of the other things I am contemplating, which I'm going to do once we get the motor and tranny out and the cab, is I have so many mid-80s Chevy chassis that apparently you can just swap all of your control arms over to the 80s Chevy truck control arms, and that will give you a 5-bolt pattern and upgrade the brakes. Then you gotta mount the booster and that kind of stuff. I don't imagine we're gonna have power steering on this because of the big block. It doesn't really matter. Some guys are happy with that swap. Some guys say you should definitely upgrade, buy the new parts. So that is where the Jimmy comes in. Am I building a cheap street truck build, or am I going to spend some money on it? For now, I want to build just a cheap street truck build and enjoy it. On the back, everything I've read says we can just tub the inner fender wells And we can fit 31-inch by 1850 by 15s on the rear and not have to alter the frame. Guys are welding up the trailing arms, are running a good set of coilovers, and they're saying these things are doing well. And if you guys ever watch Street Outlaws, the only reason I ever watched that show was to see Farm Truck. Farm Truck was literally my favorite vehicle on TV. Love that thing. Big block Chevy full of nitrous in a rusty old beater. Looks familiar. Love it. So yes, I was a huge Farm Truck fan. The rest of the show did not matter to me, but I can't call this Farm Truck. Wouldn't want to run into copyright issues, you know, like all the Eleanor builds that are going on right now. So that's the plan on the C10. Quick story on it, let you know what we're doing. We do have to spend the week working on that, and I actually believe we're going to start with this one first because we have the front end for it. So we're going to put the front end on this, put the windshield in it, and then we're going to stuff it in Mr. White's garage because his Mustang's here. Give us a little more room. And I'll park the Jimmy there and get everything done on this thing, hopefully in the next week, week and a half. So that is the plan for the C10 build. Next time I do a video on this will be all about tearing it apart, all the little problems we encountered. Any advice you guys have, throw it out there. Be happy to hear tips that might save us. I have never built a truck of this era, and I've never built a blown big block truck either. So everything we're doing is always just, hey, let's grab it and see if we can put it in there and buy some parts. So any tips you guys got always helps. Tomorrow's video, Mr. White's black Mustang. That's a very sentimental build to us. That has to do with Matt's dad, who we lost. So that'll be a tomorrow special feature. So thank you for watching, and I hope you subscribe.